tackle type guy that can also get to the quarterback, right? They also, picked up Brandon Marshall and Vontez Burfict in the offseason, so that definitely helped there. But just Quinnen Williams is, too good to pass up on. So I agree 100% with Mel Kiper here that Quinnen Williams would be the right pick for John Gruden's Oakland Raiders at number 4. Tampa Bay, number 5. Looking at Devin White, inside linebacker from LSU. Sideline to sideline, the man is a 4.42 40-yard dash, 6 foot 237. He's kind of the same height and weight as Roquan Smith when he came out. And Roquan definitely got, a lot of people saying he was too small, but he proved to be pretty awesome last year when he came in with the Bears. I suppose if you're staying with Famous Jameis, which there's been some scrutiny about that in the media, and then I suppose go ahead and get some defense here. Your offensive line wasn't great last year either, but Devin White was listed at the best linebacker in the draft. They have to replace Quan Alexander, but this team also needs safeties and corners. They were not good against the pass, as you saw them get torched against some teams. So, they just have a ton of holes. And you have a franchise-type quarterback. Devin White's okay here, but I'd also be okay with trading down. New York Giants slated to pick Dwayne Haskins, quarterback from Ohio State. And if you heard our top 10 quarterback list, I had Dwayne Haskins as the best quarterback NFL coming out of the draft. So, Dave Gettleman, he's trying to save face from last year by, not showing his hand. He's, trying to justify his Saquon Barkley pick rather than a quarterback. He always says, I'm just going to pick the best player available. Well, that's bullshit because you need a quarterback. Eli Manning's never been that great. He shines sometimes, but he can just be bad at some of these games, And I think Dwayne Haskins is perfect here, I also think that the fact that Drew Lock is available, I wouldn't mind trading down a little bit if you could, So it wouldn't hurt to trade down a little bit. You took care of some offensive line already, so I like that. You could use a right tackle as well, so trading down might even be a little bit better as long as you can either get Haskins or Locke, because I have Haskins and Locke pretty close. So if somebody wants to move up and they're in the top 12, top 13, it might not be a bad idea. You might have a team like the Dolphins try to move up a little bit. That's possible. You might have a team like the Carolina Panthers that will need an edge rusher try to move up. They're at 16. Will Haskins fall that far? That's the risk you'd have to take. But, if Locke's still available, there's not supposed to be any teams picking quarterbacks for a little bit of while. So I think the correct thing is either Dwayne Haskins or trade down a little bit here. I agree with Mel Kiper. The Jacksonville Jaguars. They are slated to pick Jawan Taylor from Florida, the offensive tackle that graded the best in the draft. 6'5", 312 pounds. I guess the second best one is Bama's Jonah Williams. I got to tell you, this is the right pick. I agree with this 100%. You just got picked up Nick Foles for 3 years, and you got to protect him first and foremost. Let's see if now that Jacksonville is going to be healthy, they were really beat up last year, if they can get back to where they were 2017. I 100% agree with this pick. The Detroit Lions, Montez Sweat from defensive end from Mississippi State. That's what Kiper thinks that's going to happen. And I got to tell you, he had 11.5 sacks in a tough SEC West. He ran a 4.41 40-yard dash at 260 pounds at the combine. I think that Sweat might be the second best edge rusher out of this draft. I think it is fantastic. I also like what Detroit did in the offseason. They picked up a lot of guys that they need, filled in some holes. Another option is to re-sign Ezekiel Ansah, I suppose, and draft trade down and draft a wide receiver. But I think there's a ton of value with the edge rusher here with Montez Sweat. So I am completely 100% agreement with Mel Kiper here. This is probably the most draft that I agree with him the most. Now, we can never predict if something people are going to trade down, and that's why we just kind of have it listed out with what teams are going to pick where. But this is what would happen if there was no trading. I think Montez Sweat is perfect here for the Detroit Lions. They're a team that, whenever you don't believe in them, they come in and they're 9-7, right? They do really well in the NFC North. And then when they come in hot and you believe in the Detroit Lions, they screw you. They completely screw up the season and have like 5 wins, So they're definitely a weird team, but it's do or die here for Stafford. I mean, he's been their franchise quarterback for a long time. I know he got paid a ton of money. I think the guaranteed money's finally starting to run out. So let's see what the Lions can do here. Wouldn't be a bad idea to grab Montez Sweat to get Aaron Rodgers, get at Kirk Cousins, and get at Mitch Trubisky. At number 9, we have the Buffalo Bills slated to pick Rashawn Gary, defensive end from Michigan. Gary had a good combine, running 4.58, 40-yard dash. He had 10.5 sacks over the last 3 seasons. I'll tell you right now, I watched a lot of Michigan football. And if the Buffalo Bills draft Rashawn Gary, they would be
wrong.
They would be absolutely wrong. And the reason that is because I don't like what Gary does in big games. I think he was just a freak when it comes to size and strength. I don't think he's got football smarts. I didn't like how he played against Ohio State. I did not like how he played against Notre Dame. I honestly didn't like how he played against Northwestern. I got to tell you here, Gary is just a name in my opinion. I'm just not a big buyer in him. Buffalo got a ton of offense in free agency, but they still could use a good tight end. So if you look, they don't really have anything there. I say we go with TJ Hawkinson, okay? Or trade down. Do not draft Rashawn Gary. It would be an absolute mistake for the Buffalo Bills. And God knows you can't put up with any more mistakes. Denver Broncos slated to pick TJ Hawkinson from Iowa for a tight end. And Hawkinson was great, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's been compared to Gronk, but I got to tell you, they drafted in the recent years Jake Butt, Troy Fumagalli from Wisconsin that couldn't miss a pass, and Jeff Heuerman. Why the hell would you draft another tight end right now when Butt and Fumagalli have been hurt? You don't know what you have there, and you're going to sit there and blow another tight end. I cannot believe that he has TJ Hawkinson, tight end from Iowa, coming in this position. I'm going to tell you what they should do. Just don't draft a tight end, first of all. Don't do it. Instead, draft a real quarterback. Flacco is done. All right? He never really was anything. It was the Ravens' defense. Flacco is not a franchise guy. You're not supposed to put lipstick on a pig, okay? I mean, Denver's offense is definitely a quarterback away, maybe another receiver here. But just trying to fill in Flacco is not going to win you anything in the playoffs. I'm not even sure he can get you to the playoffs. Draft a quarterback here. Don't screw this up, Denver. LOA should know better. Do not draft TJ Hawkinson. Draft a quarterback. you have Drew Lock available. Draft Drew Lock. All right? Draft him. Cincinnati Bengals. Devin Bush, inside linebacker from Michigan. You know, there's Devin White and then there's Devin Bush, I suppose. The Bengals defense is horrendous. Just horrendous. Both against the run and the pass. They're absolutely terrible. They ranked worst in the league in total defense, allowing 28.4 points per game. They're allowed 944 penalty yards. They allow 414 yards per game. That is absolutely awful. And then you don't want your quarterback like Dalton to have to rely on passing the ball the whole second half here. Okay? So, you know, I like Devin Bush here because the defense is so horrendous and they have to replace Vontez Burfict, but they need so many things. I wouldn't be opposed to them trading down as well. But Devin Bush is a 3-down type linebacker. I suppose he would be an okay pick right here, so I do agree with Devin Bush. The Green Bay Packers slated to pick a wide receiver in DK Metcalf, wide receiver from Ole Miss. So before I get into this, I should have mentioned that this draft is terrible when it comes to wide receivers. It's terrible when it comes to running backs. I mean, when I say terrible, I mean there's no top talent and you can get someone just as good later. It's not great when it comes to offensive line. And I suppose cornerbacks and safeties are not exactly shining either, but it's really heavy when it comes to defensive tackles, pass rushers. Linebackers are pretty good. And it's heavy when it comes to tight ends and quarterbacks. So those are where this draft shines. But the Packers are slated to pick DJ Metcalf here. 4.33 40-yard dash, 40-inch vertical, 6'3", 288 pounds. There's concerns about his lateral athleticism and health. Okay. Now, the Packers did sign some edge rushers in the offseason, right? The Smiths. They got the Smiths. So I think that they still have to replace Matthews, right? They didn't really improve there. They lost Clay Matthews. And you got a couple guys that average single-digit sacks. I think that's kind of like a trade there. You know, so I'm not sure how much they really improved in that position. A lot of people say they did great in the offseason. But if I look at Rodgers' weapons with Allison and Devontae Adams, I definitely don't think they should draft another receiver this high, especially when receivers, you can get them later. But I don't think any receiver personally has first-round talent. And this is kind of a hint coming into our play for you later in this podcast. You saw how bad the interior defense was with Packers when they lost Muhammad Wilkerson. You saw that. And so this is why they should be picking Ed Oliver out of Houston. A lot of people are saying that Ed Oliver is a top 3 talent. The guy is an absolute beast. He made Houston this year. Without Houston, they would have given up a lot more points, a lot more yards. Ed Oliver can get to the quarterback. He can stop the run. He's a 5 technique. He's exactly what the Packers need this year. All right? Exactly. Drafting a wide receiver this early would be a complete miss, especially in this draft. The problem with Ed Oliver, he's a little bit of a head case. Got into some fights with his coach. But if he can get into a system where the coach can prove leadership, their new coach, as long as LaFleur can instill leadership and, you know, be a great mentor to this kid, I think Ed Oliver could prove to be the best player in this draft. So the Packers should be drafting Ed Oliver. The Miami Dolphins.